The Dallas-Fort Worth community always says yes to supporting elementary students, and now that yes can win you a brand new 2022 truck. DFW Yes provides school supplies to more than 78,000 students across Texas. Give your yes today by purchasing raffle tickets in our Drive Away for Education truck raffle sponsored by Thomas J. Henry. The grand prize winner will choose from a new Ram, Chevrolet, GMC, Ford, or Nissan truck. Plus, you could win a shopping spree or gas card. Purchase your raffle ticket today at dfwyes.org.
Pickle, let's go to the hotline. And let's bring in Miss Kinsey Lee of KTEN. She's a sports reporter up there in the Texoma region. Kinsey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good, good. So happy to have you on. And I know it's been probably a trip up there for you during this time, but we really appreciate you hopping on today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, before we get started into the nitty-gritty football talk, we always love to ask our guests, a little bit about them. Give us your elevator pitch on who you are and how did you get up there in the Texoma region?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna lie, I never, kind of saw myself here, but I graduated from Oklahoma State in December of 2020. And I'm born and raised in Oklahoma, so I'm only about an hour 15, hour 30 out from my hometown there. And honestly, Oklahoma State just has one of the best sports media programs in the country. So it was kind of just a cherry on top that I always, wanted to be in sports. And so for that to just be an hour and 30 from my hometown. But I mean, yeah, I grew up playing volleyball and basketball, and, ever since I stepped foot on a basketball court, I mean, I always knew I wanted to be a part of sports in some way, in shape or form. Didn't know it would always be media, but eventually, around my teenage years, I mean, I grew up watching, the Dallas Cowboys, the Oklahoma City Thunder with my dad. And so that just kind of I saw, the women on the sideline, and I was like, you know what, I can do that. And so ever since then, it's just it's been a roller coaster for sure. But I mean, I've never wanted to do anything else. So here I am, it's my first job out of college. I've been here for about a year and 7 months now. And so my contract ends in February, but it's just been a blast, covering this area. People are just so amazing down here.
Well, and you kind of got the best of both worlds. You get to cover some of the best high school football in the entire country, while still being close to your hometown up there in Oklahoma. So that's pretty cool. You kind of got the best of both worlds there. There's a lot of great football. Not too many teams in the Texoma region, but there's a lot of really, really good teams up there. If there is one storyline that you think people across the state of Texas should know about the Texoma region, what would that be in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I think there's honestly more than one because, as you just mentioned, there's so many great football teams in this area. I think, obviously the first and foremost and the obvious is the Gunner Tigers. I mean, when you have a team who forfeits, their first game, that's a storyline in itself. It's clear Gunner is the team that most people are scared of. I mean, as they should be, outscoring your opponents 456-64. I mean, I'm a numbers girl. I love numbers. And so when I see
that's a number.
I'm just like,
yeah.
I mean, you look at their last three games, 85-0, 56-0, and 45-0. I mean, that's just on a whole different level. And then of course, you look at Whitesboro too. I mean, I'll touch on them a little bit later, but because when you say keep an eye on, to me, that's who should you look out for that might surprise you? And, that's definitely Whitesboro because they're unranked, but they're one of the most talented teams in the area. And to me, in the state and in their division and their conference. And then Collinsville, missing the playoffs last year, and now they're district champions. And I covered that game when they took down Santo to claim the top spot in the district. So this is definitely, a Collinsville team that opponents shouldn't underestimate by any means. So again, I think there's all different kinds of storylines, in the area that people should watch out for.
And a lot of great teams up there that, like you just mentioned, Gunner and Whitesboro. Are there any teams that you think that might not currently be ranked that could maybe make a little bit of noise? I know you mentioned Whitesboro, but maybe could make a little bit of noise and make a sort of a playoff run here in the next couple weeks.
I mean, yeah, you said it, and I think to me it's just so obvious, with Whitesboro, because you have a team who's already beaten two ranked teams, right now. Bell's in Pottsboro number 9, 3A D1, Bell's number 5, 3A D2, and you just see a team that's coming off so much momentum, like their best postseason finish in school history last year. I don't see that stopping, anytime soon, and literally inches, like actually physically inches away from defeating a team like Brock. And they play such tough competition. So to me, it's actually kind of surprising, to not see them ranked. And I think anyone, who would cover Texoma football would probably agree with me. But they're probably going to surprise a lot of people, but they're definitely not going to surprise me, making a deep run in the playoffs.
Now, I can tell you this right now. I picked Whitesboro coming out of Region 1. Me and Matt Stepp picked Whitesboro to come out of that Region 1 there. So I am 1,000% with you on that pick. No surprise there.
Yeah.
Now let's kind of transition over to players to watch here. What are some names in the Texoma region that you think they could be juniors, just kind of starting out and are going to make some noise next year, or they could be seniors that, are going to probably make even bigger noise in the playoffs here in the next couple weeks?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said earlier, I'm a huge numbers girl, love stats. Because to me, it just proves why, how great these teams are and how these individual players are. And so I'll start with Gunner because, again, there's players on all different teams that are so good. You have Ivy Hellman and Ethan Sloan, and combined, they almost have 1,000 rushing yards. Hellman leads the way with 618, but them two, without a doubt. I mean, obviously just Gunner in itself because they just have so many weapons, but those two specifically. Bells, Brock Baker, we always call him Brock B in the sports department. He is just an absolute beast. I mean, him and Grady Waldrop on the Panthers. Baker has 900 rushing. Waldrop has over 1,000. But to me, what they need to watch out for Brock is this guy on defense. I mean, 125 tackles, 22 tackles for loss, 7 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions, and 2 touchdowns on defense. I mean, not many people can come close to those defensive stats. So he's kind of a threat on both sides of the ball. Whitesboro, I mean, we've been talking about him this whole time. Matt Harper, he's just Mac Attack. We like nicknames in the KTEN sports department. Shout out to Davis Baker. He's the one who gave him that nickname, but he has over 1,700 passing yards. And then Grayson Ledbetter is right there with him with nearly 1,400 rushing yards to kind of balance each other out there. So Pottsboro, Major McBride, Halen Flanagan, dynamic duo there in itself. I haven't covered Pottsboro too much because they're so close to the station. So Davis actually covers them a lot more, but man, he is always talking about just how, loaded they are on offense, that team. And, McBride and Flanagan are a big part of that. And you said juniors, and, you got Logan Jenkins on Collinsville. He's a junior and he's a transfer from Lindsay, actually, Texas, coming into Collinsville. And he has over 2,400 passing yards. I mean, he's surpassing all of these, quarterbacks that I've been talking about right now. So he is just, he's actually not even the biggest guy, which is the most surprising to me. He's kind of a little dude there, but he's got quite an arm on him.
He definitely
no doubt.
Does.
So, you got those are probably my main players right there that, people need to watch out for.
So I know you probably, you'll never get sick of talking about the Gunner Tigers, but I do have to ask because we were going through our Texas high school football playoff predictions earlier, and we all of us picked Gunner to win the state championship. I think that's not a shock to literally anybody, and especially in the Texoma region, I'm preaching to the choir. But this Gunner team feels different than some of the past. They consistently are one of the best teams in the entire state. We call them the murder machine. We genuinely mean that. You've seen them this year. I have not been able to see them in person. Do you feel like this is a different Gunner team than anyone is actually maybe not prepared for, knowing how good they are all the time?
No, yeah. I mean, that's such a good question. It's such a good take because what fascinates me about this team is they really didn't become like a state championship caliber team overnight where people are just expecting them to be at AT&T Stadium at the end of the year every year. Because I did a state preview story on them last year going into that Franklin state championship game. And I did some research and found out that actually Gunner didn't become a deep playoff team until about the 90s. And then when head coach Jake Fazell took over in 2007, that's when the program started to sort of make a name for itself. I mean, now you have over a decade now, Gunner has had more victories in 382 than any other team in North Texas. And that includes trying to, capture that third state title in 6 seasons last year. Right now they got 2. But like you said, covering that game last year in the state championship and just the way they lost, and then seeing the players this year and, interviewing them, there is so much hunger and want to get back there. Not just necessarily because, people expect them to be there, but they expect it for themselves, with Coach Fizzell sort of leading the way. And I respect him so much. And why they are the way they are is because of him, because he puts such high expectations on them, and that's never going to falter. Because, think about like college football. You got these, big brand name teams like Georgia and Alabama, and people always say they don't rebuild, they reload. That's Gunner for high school football. These kids are, strength training at 6th grade. You see the Twitter videos out there. And when one class leaves, you always have the next ready to go. So, to just go back to this specific team this year, it's hard losing a guy like Hudson Graham. But there's just so many weapons on this team, because when you look at their like total stats this year, they're so balanced on passing and rushing. And, you would think that Ethan Sloan, he's one of the players that I mentioned, would maybe have more rushing stats, but it's because they have so many other players. And so to me, there's no question that you're going to see me and my sports director, Davis Baker at AT&T Stadium, at the end of the year for these guys. And I'm pretty confident that, they're going to take it all. So especially, I'm pretty confident, especially with what I've seen as well. Just
you
with
should
all
be.
of this, not just because they're not just focusing on, Hudson Graham or, a specific dynamic duo. There's just, again, they're everywhere. It's kind of like San Antonio Spurs. Like you got, it's a team game for them. It's not just based on one player.
Oh, yes, ma'am. She's talking Spurs. Let's
she's
go.
She's a Thunder fan. Okay?
Let's go.
She's a Thunder fan. Okay.
Yeah.
She doesn't even.
Take
you
credit.
Can never go wrong with Greg Popovich.
Take credit. You knew all along. She was here to hype me up. Let's go.
I'm outnumbered here, but yeah, there's a reason why we picked we picked Gunner to make it all the way to AT&T Stadium this year. But Kinsey, finally. If we're up in the Texoma region, probably won't make it up there this year, but definitely here in the next year or so, we want to come see some of that star talent out there. Where should we go eat? Because we're big foodies here on this show.
Oh, I'm a big foodie. So are we just talking like anywhere in Texoma? Are we talking like the Sherman Denison area or what?
Honestly, anywhere.
You tell us.
Yeah, you tell us.
Anywhere, okay, because I don't necessarily go to a lot of the small towns to eat, because I live in Sherman, but I think everyone at our station, our go-to place it's called Sellerman's, and they have the best fried pickles in the world.
Oh, say less.
Fried pickles, girl, and their bacon cheese fries reminds me of Eskimo Joe's in Stillwater back in my college days. So back in my college days,
that's high praise.
I'm really old, but. No doubt, Sellerman's. That's the number one for sure.
Let's go.
Man, that sounds fun. I could mess up some fried pickles right now. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Anyways, she is Miss Kinsey Lee, sports reporter at KTEN. Thanks so much for joining us, Kinsey. I know it's a busy time of year for you, so we really appreciate you coming on. Try and stay warm out there, and hopefully we will see you at AT&T Stadium in December.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it.